Hello and welcome to Brand Pitch. Today I'm joined by Stephen from Osaka Hockey. He's one of the co-founders. He's been there since day one. We talk everything from how the brand got started, their marketing strategy, to their new collection for Paris and also a new product. I usually do this at the end of the video, but I wanted to get it in early because this is a really important one. I'm only able to do these videos because of people following. So if you want support and you want to see more stuff like this, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a comment and like this video, send it to your friends. It really helps get more attention onto these videos and it really helps get this message out. If you want to support further, you can join the Boss F Hockey Club either through Patreon or through my website, which is bossfhockey.com. It costs a small amount each month. It gives you behind the scenes access to some of the stuff that's going on and stuff that we have upcoming. It gives you early access to reviews and interviews like this, and it gives you bonus entries into giveaways. Now, without further ado, on to the interview. So today I'm joined by Stephen from Osaka. So thank you for joining me today.
No problem. Good to be here.
So let's start off by talking about how Osaka was founded. So I first came across it in late 2012.
Yeah. How it was founded, why it was founded. Yeah, it's a big question. I think if I go back, I'm Irish. I got to play luckily for the national team with Ireland, and I got the opportunity to come and play in Belgium in Dragons. And I think at the time it's different now. The marketplace is a lot different now, but at the time the hockey brands on the market was a very traditional marketplace. Didn't really feel that there was a brand that represented what the hockey community is and the consumers that are in the community. When I was growing up as an Irish sportsman in Ireland, hockey is not that big as it is now in Central Europe here. The big sports is the Irish sports, the Gaelic sports, football, rugby. I was actually in a rugby school, and I was never really that proud to be a hockey player. And only when I grew up, I think a bit, and I was playing with the national team, even with my buddies in Ireland, never really kind of always kept it a bit low key. And only when I came to play with Dragons then in Central Europe, I saw hockey in Central Europe is completely different. And I always thought as I grew older, I was working in different sports industries. I worked with Canterbury with the rugby brand. I was working with Callaway Golf. And working through the sports industries, I always then when I came back to play in Dragons, I saw an opportunity and thought, okay, maybe it's a good idea that we can create a brand that a hockey player can be proud of, with the ultimate goal of having people just wearing our brand that have no affiliation to hockey. That's kind of where we were going from. I had very fortunate to meet my business partner at Dragons. We hit it off pretty good from the very beginning with a very similar mantra. He had a son as well who was playing in Dragons at the time. And it kind of went from there. And that was back in 2010, 2011 time. And it started from the spare room of my of my house and kind of branched out. And luckily now we're in a position where we've grown to be one of the, I think probably, well, what we like to say, the most progressive hockey brand, but one of the bigger brands in the sport of hockey, and now divulging into multisports.
Yeah, I don't think you're kind of out on a limb saying you are one of, if not the biggest brand in hockey at the minute. So
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think there's different elements. I think you can look at it different ways. At the beginning, we were more wanting to be, to have a different, a whole lifestyle approach, and we've kind of changed as a young brand. You can put your stake in the ground and say, we want to take this kind of lifestyle approach. We were pushing more towards lifestyle clothing, and we see now that there's a shift. And as a brand, you need to be able to adapt, and we're adapting now much towards towards multisport, and towards different collections and different elements in the sport, because we noticed at the beginning we started out with sticks, and our sticks perform and always did perform really well, and that was a big attraction point from players. We felt there was a gap in the market on the luggage side, on the bag side. I think now we're market leader in the bags. Our bags are a really strong point to the brand. But when you looked at the field, we always felt we were missing. When you look at the field and you only have sticks and gloves, you're missing a big portion of the market. And the two elements then that we really dove into was teamwear, which is very important for the brand now, and then the big one of footwear. And that's why, if I go back to say, yeah, we're one of the biggest brands, when you bring footwear into the market now, we can really start to say that we're one of the major players. But when you don't tick the teamwear and the footwear box, then of course you're missing out on a huge portion of the market.
Yeah, like you say, I think there's only a handful of brands that you can really say you could walk onto a pitch and be head to toe in a single brand and have all of your needs met: shoes, protection, kit, stick, obviously. And definitely you're one of the few. Yeah,
I think now you can look at the field and we can be front of mind. When somebody looks at hockey, we want them to be able to see, Osaka, okay, that they can see us on the field. That's very important for the growth of the brand. Plus, with teamwear, we get a connection with, there's no better place for a customer base than a hockey club. We're a hockey brand. So when we can make that connection with our consumers through teamwear deals, that also has a big benefit for us as a brand.
Yeah, and obviously you provide teamwear to a lot of big clubs. Do you know roughly how many clubs it is that you are the kit supplier for?
You're asking the wrong guy. I think we've 60, 70 clubs or something now across the globe. I'm not sure on the exact number, but it's also the quality of the clubs that we have as well. We're working with some of, I think quite a few of the biggest clubs in the world.
Absolutely. And touching on, you brought up the sticks and how they've always performed. Looking at the range of sticks that you offer, you have, I think, two main lines, which is the Pro Tour line and the Vision line. But within both of those, you've got, I think, 5 or 6 different composition offerings in the Pro Tour, and I think 7 in the Vision.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you, I believe as a brand, if you want to be one of the best brands in hockey, you need to be able to provide for the athlete, and that's something we always looked at. We wanted to be a brand that was used by the best athletes in the world, and then filter down to all levels of hockey. Making a hockey stick, people think is really easy, but it's actually not. It's not that easy. I mean, and people believe that you can just go pick it off a shelf. That's not really how we do it. We do have the NOS collection. So that's if you like, our never out of stock. We run that for a 4-year cycle. And the reason we do that is because part of our DNA is the black and green branding that we use. We do that again to be front of mind on the field. So the reason that we have the NOS collection, we don't need to redesign it. We just need to keep that continuation of the product. It's still our best-selling collection. It's what people associate Osaka with. And then the Vision collection is about trends, and we want to be able to bring trends and what we see as trending colorways or products in. So that's where the Vision collection comes in. We try to cover all carbon contents with possible. We want to be able to be accessible to all players. So we go all the way from wood, glass fiber, all the way up to if you say 100% carbon content, but with and then the same in the Vision collection, so that we can do it across both collections.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to touch on. With that huge range, and obviously you've also got many different profiles. You can sort of take junior players right the way through to senior internationals, and you can find where they land on that spectrum. Is there obviously you talked about the range, kind of the iconic Pro Tour green and black sticks, and the vision being a bit more towards trends. Underneath, are they similar, or is there divergences in the stick underneath?
There is divergences in the stick. With the Vision, we use a different type as well of carbon wrap sometimes on them. In the NOS collection, we offer all bow types. So hockey is evolving, and people want to find the stick that suits their game. In the NOS collection, we offer all bows. In the Vision collection, we only offer a certain amount of bows, depending on the collection and depending where we see the trend going. We see, for example, that sticks are going much lighter now, because there's, especially at the top level, there's not very much hitting in the game anymore. If you watch a game, you see it's funny because a lot of people train it, but if you see now the youth, even how they develop, a lot of the youth that I see can't really even hit the ball correctly. And that's because of the way that the speed of the ball that can move on the pitch, and because of the quality of the pitches, and the game has just become much faster. So the time for hitting is less, and we see now stick weights are going way down, and balance points are coming up the stick. And when your balance points comes up the stick, your stick feels lighter, and that's so we do look at all these elements, and that's why bow becomes even again more important. So we try to offer all the bow shapes in the NOS collection, which carries through, and then the Vision, we depending on the season, we see what we think fits best.
And you've recently launched within the Pro Tour range the white-faced drag flicking stick.
Yeah. Actually, that came from one of our athletes, and that's our connection with the athletes, which I think is really nice as a brand. That was Jeroen Hertzberger. Jeroen came with the concepts via WhatsApp, like, "Hey, I need this. What do you think?" and all. And so yeah, we brought it out. Indeed, I think it plays a part. I'm not sure myself of the actual effect that it has on but I think at the highest level, if you can on a drag flick disguise the ball slightly, and there's a split second delay in the release of the ball that a keeper can see it, I can imagine it plays an advantage. I think it's also a really good marketing story. So yeah, it's been really popular. It's taken up really well. I'm interested to see what the FIH are going to do. Will there be any real changes that come in? But yeah, it was a nice product, and it was a nice product to bring in, but driven by Jeroen, which is also gives it a nice element.
It's interesting to hear you say that was brought to you by a player.
Yeah.
Obviously, the white face stick came from, I believe it was Vanash, telling Hendricks that when he was putting tape on the face of his stick at the Tokyo Olympics, it was harder to read, and it's kind of spiraled out with players going back to brands. So I think it's a really interesting trend within the market.
Exactly. I think there was a couple of players. I think traditionally as well, you weren't allowed to have white below the knee before, but then I guess they changed the rule because they also use yellow balls, and I guess it was driven by, because in the Tokyo Olympics there was quite a few players, I think, that were doing it. Of course, as a player, you're always looking for the edge, especially at the highest level. You're looking for the edge, and I think, yeah, that was really nice. But we have that connection with our players. We continuously ask them about the products that we're making and what they need. That connection makes it a little bit special as well. And there's some players that engage in that more than others. And luckily enough, Jeroen is just one of those guys that does. He's always looking at new ideas and also how to help the brand. So that's and the stick, in fairness, has been received very well. We put it into our collection as well for next year as a firm standing product. So yeah, we'll see how it develops.
You talk about player-led product development. So I'd like to just kind of pivot off to talk about the shoes that you do.
Yeah.
So the Idios, I remember when you were building up to the release, you did a range of podcasts or
Yeah.
some video format. And I remember in there, you had players talking about the shoe and what they were wanting to get and all of the various testing you did. How big of an effort was it to launch the Idios?
Yeah, it's the Edo. The Edo, I'll correct you
Ido.
there. The Edo. And that actually is a Japanese word that stands for freedom of movement. Footwear is, and the Edo itself is the biggest project we ever took on as a brand. Footwear is not easy. We actually touched into footwear back in, I think, 2016. No, sorry, I'm wrong. 2014 for the World Cup in Den Haag, and we touched into footwear, and it was a very short project because we realized our sticks were one of the best in the world. Our bags were market leader. Our clothing was ticking the boxes, high performance, and our shoes were not there. So we actually parked the project of shoes until we wanted to open the door again. We met with just 3 fantastic shoe dogs, if you like. And without them, we wouldn't have been able to get the project off the ground. And they brought a huge amount of knowledge and technology into the shoe. Shoes is really important part of our business now. And we're launching, so we have the Edos, we have the Kai shoe, and now we're launching a new shoe, lower price points, the Furo. And that will be launched now in June.
Interesting. So I've talked about this various times online. I wear the Edo shoes. One of the things that I like about them the most is the hard protective toe box.
Yeah.
I think it's so obvious looking at it. Obviously, the ball hits toes in hockey quite a lot, probably more so at lower level than at the very peak performance player. It's sort of odd looking back that has never been implemented anywhere else. Is there any other?
Yeah, on the shoes, I think it's you're working with 2 things. Weight is the most important in footwear, and weight is a penalty. So the more weight you're carrying on your feet, the slower you're going to be able to move. So yeah, you want your shoe to be as light as possible. But with lightweight, you're going to lose protection. And if you see now, a lot of the players, especially in penalty corner, are putting extra protection on their shoes, because we all know, if anybody who's been playing hockey, when you get hit with a hockey ball on your foot, yeah, that can put you out. And especially small, like with your toes. So we decided to put in the toe protection. Again, that was a request from we put a players group together when we were developing the Edo, and this was a feedback that came from them. And it's also very lightweight. We can put a small toe protection in just to help to protect the foot slightly. But we didn't want to increase the weight, so we've only just put at the toe, and the rest of the shoe, then we're trying to keep it as light as possible.
You talked about finding the balance between protection and lightness. How did that inform decisions going forward with the Kais and the new shoe that you talked about?
Yeah, but what we learned from the specialists that we worked with was if an item doesn't have a purpose, it's not going on the shoe. So because by putting on different elements, you're putting on weight. So we try to keep that ethos through our whole collection. The Edo is a very technical shoe. It has a lot of good things to it. The Kai is more of a price pointed shoe, but we have kept some of the elements from the Edo. And the new Furo, we wanted to have pure step-in comfort. We wanted to keep the lightweight, and it kind of looks a bit more as well like a sneaker. We've also changed the outsole. We have a different grip formation for the cleats. And actually, the feedback we've got is been really good. We actually had one of our top players wore the Furos, so the new Furo shoes, last weekend in his championship match.
Interesting. How much kind of sway do you have with the players? Do you give them all of the products and say, wear what you feel comfortable with, or do you especially with the development of new shoes and things like that, do you say, right, can you wear these shoes for a couple of games and see how they feel, see what feedback you can give?
Yeah, good question. Good question. On footwear, of course, people are a bit more sensitive, I think. But we're super close to our athletes, and we test these products with all our athletes. So all our athletes are pretty comfortable at that stage to wear our shoes and to use our products. That's the one element that if we're discussing signing with an athlete, they need to have that affiliation to the brand, and you need that connection with them to make it an honest partnership both ways. Yeah, I think we only have one player. Anyway, one player is not wearing our shoes, but that's because his feet are too big, and we don't go to that size. But for the new collection, we're now, even for Paris, we're actually adding that size into our range to accommodate that player, which is yeah. So I think in terms of our connection to the athletes, that's good. But with the amount of testing that we do, I'm confident anyway that that shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. You've mentioned it a couple of times, the Paris collection.
Yeah.
Are we going to see any Paris themed design choices going forward with the range?
Yeah, as part of our vision range, I think a trending topic is going to be Paris for this season. We have developed a collection that'll be launching now, I think, mid-April for Paris. It consists of a stick collection and shoes, and I think some accessories. So when we're designing our collections, we try and design a collection, not just we bring it the whole way through. So we bring a whole color story to each of our vision ranges, and we've done the same with our Paris collection.
Okay. And in the Paris collection, obviously we're going to see sticks.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing we're going to see some shoes as well in those colorways.
Yeah. That's indeed. I can show you a little sneak peek of the. So this will be launching soon, but it's a very sneak peek of our Paris collection stick. There's some really nice elements that we'll talk about when we launch the product. I can give you a sneak peek at the Furo shoe as well. So this is the Furo Paris collection shoe. You can see the outsole is completely different formation than what we're used to. Really pretty looking shoe. So super lightweight, very comfortable. I actually can't wait for these to come on the market.
Yeah, they look really interesting.
Yeah, we're really proud of them. It's that's been also footwear is just such an exciting space to be working in, and with the partners that we have, we've got so much knowledge on board about making a shoe, and yeah, I think it's going to be a big part of our brand moving forward.
So, just on that shoe development, you talked earlier about becoming a multi-sport brand. Yeah. How much of that filters into the design of new products like shoes? Do they get designed to be multi-sport, or are they targeted?
Yeah, I think we've been pulled into multi-sport. We started off with paddle. That was one of our first ventures. We had one of our product designers, the head product designer, Thomas, at the time, I think he went to Spain on holidays. He ended up playing paddle. And when we traveled to our factory in Pakistan, where we manufacture our sticks, they're one of the biggest paddle manufacturers in the world, just by chance. So on our lunch times, when we were, I don't know, or when we were waiting for the stick development, or we were waiting for a design to go through manufacturing to test it, we'd often mess around with the paddle bats. And when Thomas came back from his trip in Spain, he came to me and said, "Hey, Stephen, I've come." This was like 6 years ago or so. "I've come in connection with this new sport. They have it at our factory. Do you mind if I make some bats for me and my friends. That was actually, he wanted to make an Osaka bat. And we just got right on the beginning of that wave of paddle in Central Europe. And that became a really big turning point for the brand. Last year, we actually sold more paddle bats than hockey sticks, would you believe? Although we're still, and we look at ourselves as a hockey brand, paddle became it's a much bigger market space. There is touch points with the consumers of hockey. It's a similar demographic, but a slightly older demographic than our main consumer base in hockey. So yeah, it was really exciting. And now we've developed, we have a full paddle collection. We have a whole new customer base. We also have paddle shoes even with a herringbone outsole. We have indoor shoes coming for the indoor courts. And now we're venturing actually into pickleball as well, because the USA is a very important market for us. And we've been pulled a bit into pickleball because of the connection between the pickleball community and as they call it, field hockey in the USA. So pickleball is another sport now that we present next week at the biggest racket fair in the world. It's in Miami. It's called Racket X. We'll be there presenting paddle and pickleball. No hockey. So it's kind of exciting steps that we're making. The thing is with these racket sports is you're competing with some of the biggest brand groups in the world with big budgets and big athletes behind them. So I have to say I'm pretty proud that we were able to even put our stake in the ground as one of the challenger brands. So it's a completely different mindset and a different scope that we have compared to hockey. In hockey, we're one of the, if you like, the progressive market leaders. In paddle, we're a real challenger brand, and it's actually like starting again.
Interesting. And how do the two kind of parallel? Obviously, being a market leader in one and the challenger brand in the other, how do they sit simultaneously?
Yeah, I see it as just going back in time. I mean, when we started with hockey, when I went, I remember a conversation we had with, at the time, it was the biggest retailer in the Netherlands. And we went to them to pitch our brand. And in fairness, they came back and said, okay, but you're one of 45 brands that come to me. Why Osaka? And our response to that was like, actually, you're right. Until people come asking for it, don't buy it. So that was also part of our DNA from the beginning, is that we need to drive consumers. We need to make the connection with consumers. Actually, a retailer needs to put the sticks on the wall, and we need to drive the sales. And that's kind of the approach we took to our marketing. I think with paddle, it's exactly the same. We've gone back in time as a challenger brand, a new into a much bigger market space, and we're doing the same thing. We're doing our marketing in the same way. It's really a copy paste, more guerrilla style, and we have to drive the demand in paddle.
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on it there. I think Osaka has for a very long time been the leading hockey brand in terms of marketing. That kind of mentality that you just mentioned of we want to drive customers to stores to buy our product.
Yeah.
Has that always kind of carried through from that first meeting you had with a
from the very beginning? That's been so important to our DNA as a brand, is that we want that connection with the consumer. And that's where when I started, I say a lot of the hockey brands at the time, not now, but at the time, it was a lot of traditional brands. And that's how the market was driven. And that's where the opportunity was to really have a modern brand that connects and connects with the lifestyle of the hockey player. And I think that was the timing was good. There was also, we were lucky to be based in Antwerp here in Belgium. Belgian hockey was on the rise. We're very centrally located to the biggest hockey markets in the world, so we were able to get quite a good impact. We invested heavily in guerrilla marketing. We have our DJ trucks. We went and activated at events. One of our biggest, I think the big change for the brand was in 2014 when we did the World Cup in Den Haag. And we were so blown away by the interest of the Dutch consumers. It was just, yeah, that was just an incredible moment for the brand. And it was a real turning point that we went from, if you like, a real startup challenger brand to being a real serious hockey brand.
Yeah, and with that, one thing that Osaka has done and will probably continue to do, I don't want to speculate on what your future plans are. You've always kind of created an event around launches. So I know when you did your arcade range, which I think is the last major range that you released, you created like promotional launch videos where you got all your athletes together. You had like retro arcade cabinets dotted around and had them playing hockey in like a little pitch in the middle.
Yeah, you've got to, as a brand, you have to tell a story. I mean, it's you have to tell a story, and that brings that connection to our consumers and to our fans. It's part of our DNA. We also enjoy it, but we believe marketing is storytelling, and we are inspired by everything we see around us and by other brands that we see, non-hockey brands. So yeah, with each collection, with each launch, we believe that we need to bring a story as to why we do something. So even with the Paris collection, as I was saying, we developed that, I think, a year and a half ago, because we're always working forward in collections. We're now working on we've finished the 2025 collection. We're now working on our 26 collection. And with that thought process, you already need to think of that brand story. You need to think of what story we're going to bring. So it's not like we just do it last minute. It is all planned out in advance. But when you plan it out in advance, then you get that nice flow. So we know for each collection that we're launching what the theme has been, what the color stories are, and then our marketing team then take that through, and we prepare our launch plan.
And with that, obviously, there are some outside factors that are always going to have an influence on, when you're going to launch a new range. For example, the Olympics is one of the times where there's the most eyes on the hockey community. Outside of that, do you target specific dates, or do you look for like major events that you can tie these releases into?
Yeah, we look at the calendar, but there is fixed dates for the European season. Well, the traditional European season starts kind of, the big selling time is sort of July, August time, and then the season starting in September, and then you have the winter break, the German season, but the Australian, the South African season starting in January time, and the USA season starting in February time. So there is a mix. So we have 2 collections a year that we develop. One is for if you like, for the traditional European season, and the other is for our export. We call it for our export customers. We do look at key dates, but we have to keep in mind the opening dates of a season. So it's your traditional fashion style: spring, summer, autumn, winter. That's how we work. And then when we see key events in between, we always try and connect with them.
Interesting. So we touched on it previously, the Shoe Launch podcast.
Yeah.
Is there more scope to do things like that going forward as you develop new products and bringing in?
Yeah, I think ideally we would like to. We have such a story to tell that we'd actually like to do that for every product, but it's just not possible because we just don't have enough. We don't have enough manpower and we don't have enough time. But I think that's something that we'll try and do more and more, because I think the consumer deserves to know, and we have that story to tell, and we put so much thought, feedback from athletes, time into into all our products, that we want to tell that story. So I think it is something we will try and do more and more. I see other brands, some of the biggest brands in the world, that's a real highlight for them now, is to talk more about products. And I think for us, we'll follow suit.
So with that in mind, what do you think would be the most interesting Osaka product to have a podcast around, similar to you did with the
Yeah, I'm a bit of a product freak. I can talk to you about any product. You can give me time. I'm a big believer in sticks. The stick technology has gone so far that we're kind of at a point where we've reached. We would like to develop sticks further. We would like to see what we can do. I think on sticks you can talk. I can talk on stick shapes, weights, bows, flex, whatever for a podcast, no problem. I think footwear is, as I said, for us, it's also a learning curve. That's a very interesting product space. One of the products that we do is our custom sticks, which I think is inspired by what we've seen from some other major brands. And the custom stick, I think, is something that will become more and more popular in the future. You can design your own stick. You can also have your own specs. And as players, as the game increases and players demand that they are looking to have a product that's really perfectly suited for them. So I think the custom stick is a product that we'd like to maybe go further into in the future.
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend like I've not played around with your custom stick editor for more than a couple of hours at least. So with that, the custom stick editor, obviously, it's both freeing and limiting. So you go through and you pick all your colors, your specifications, as you've talked about. Is there going to be scope for that in future to encompass some of the historic versions of the Vision? So I know at the minute you've got your Pro Tour limited sticks, which I think are a really nice design.
Yeah,
got one in my stick bag. It would be cool to bring kind of that into the custom stick tool, so you could choose to have that, the different style of the Osaka font, but you could also bring in like the white face design and things like that. That's something coming?
Yeah, that's it. We would like to. We're going to branch out our custom offering more. I think we want to give the freedom to our consumers that they can design themselves. We would like to go deeper into specs as well, because I think that's becoming more important. As I said before, weight is a huge plus point now. Balance point, I think, is becoming more important. People are becoming more educated on changing the balance point and what that does to the feeling of a stick. So these are elements we'd also like to put in the technical side, not only just the aesthetics and the design side. So it is something we're looking at. Length of stick is something that we've had requests from athletes that they want to use longer sticks. We also have junior players that are moving to longer sticks because of the advantages. So I think that's something that we'll look at in the future.
So with that, you're talking about players looking for longer sticks, and you talked about one of the Osaka players doesn't wear the shoes just because up until this point you've not made them in that size. How much do you think that is a limiting factor to what you can offer within the custom space?
We're here to serve our athletes. So like the example I gave, we have a fantastic athlete, Nelson Onana from Belgium. We want to treat him like all our athletes. He needs to be wearing our shoes. So we're going to make it for him. And now we're going to offer it now that size to all our customers, all our retail customers. It's super important. The athlete comes first. So in terms of specs as well for sticks, we're trying to provide the best sticks we can for each athlete. And I think the custom app has the potential to do that for the mass market. So if we can get deeper into specs, that's something I'd like to see. But we have to be able to control it from a production point of view and to make it a sustainable model. But I think that's a space that we're going to look further into, and I think it's going to be also something that consumers are really going to enjoy.
And this is probably not an Osaka specific question. How much do you think that knowledge is filtered out in terms of specifications of hockey sticks? So the reason I ask is because historically sticks have only really come in two sizes in most, which is a 36.5 and a 37.5. And one of the most common questions that I get through social media is, what size stick should I be using? How do I work it out? Because if you look on certain things, it will advise on stick sizes up to 37.5.
Yeah.
I'm 6'3". I should really use a longer stick, but don't, because historically it's been difficult to get a 38.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. But I don't think there's one answer for that, because it's the same with bow types. I don't think you can stereotype one player into a stick length, or a bow type, or even a carbon content, because there's a different feel to the stick. One of the best players in the world, who was quite small, used a 38.5-inch stick. If you're going by a stick guide, which is something that I think is a good tool for people who want to find out and educate themselves more, but there is no real stereotype. So if you're using a 36.5 and you're comfortable with it, I mean, keep doing it, in my opinion. We try and advise. It's also, bow, I think, is very important, especially for the youth. For example, one of the best players in the world, Arthur van Doorn, uses a very straight stick. And he does that for a reason, because he feels that he has better basics with his stick. Now, he still has very nice aerial skills. He can still throw overheads. But he feels that with the mid bow and a straighter stick, that he has much faster basic skills with stopping, receiving, and passing the ball. When you have a low bow, and you know that the bow, when you stop the ball, often you get a little, and you'll see it with a lot of young players, they get a little pop because you hold the face down. So when the ball hits the stick, it just jumps a little bit. When you have a straighter stick, you can get a much smoother movement where the ball comes and you can move it on quicker. And that's some elements that I think people could deserve getting more knowledge on. The choice of bow is very important, especially for the young players. I think a lot of players want to have the most aggressive bow, but it's not necessarily the best for their game. Length is a preference. I think players should play with longer sticks to a point. The longer the stick, and if you can play with it, the better. You have more reach. But yeah, I think Toon de Nooijer played his whole career with a 36.5. He's also a tall guy, and he was pretty damn good. So that's why I say there's no real stereotype. I think a player needs to be comfortable with it, but we will try and guide people into the right direction. Hope that answers your question.
No, that's fantastic. And it touches on something else I was going to bring up. So you've talked about working with Hertzberger. He's recently put out a range of videos, I think in partnership with yourselves, talking about the different profiles, and what are the benefits and the negatives of each one. Do you think that could be something that could benefit from having a longer deep dive, along with things like balance point and weight, so people understand?
I think it's hugely important. The European hockey community is quite well educated on this, and I think the videos that Jeroen put out, and these were naturally spoken from himself, they're absolutely superb, and they're worth a watch if anybody has questions, not only for Osaka but for all brands, that he talks about what he sees, indeed the pros and the cons. But because of our growth in the USA, I've been spending a lot of time in the USA, and I'm going to events are very big in the USA. So they have these big events where a lot of players come together, and we do a bit of a roadshow with USA Field Hockey, with our partnership, and we're there, and we get to speak to a lot of players and parents, which is really interesting. And my parents were hockey players. My whole family played hockey. I've been enthralled in hockey all my life. But there's also parents who have absolutely no idea about hockey. Their son or daughter have picked up hockey. And when I talk to them, then I see, okay, there's real education, and hockey as a sport is not fantastic at bringing across, number one, all the rules of the game, and two, product specs. So I think that can happen more and more, and people are looking for that information. They want to educate themselves. So I think it's really nice if we can provide that, and I do think I do think it's very important for a player that they can have and that they select the right product for themselves. It doesn't always have to be the most expensive. Absolutely not. We just need the help to guide them to the right product.
And I think that's kind of touching on where some of the issues come from. So hockey has historically been kind of a family sport. Quite often parents will pass it on to their kids and so on and so forth, and that knowledge is sort of passed along. But for new people coming in, they don't have that place to go and find that information.
Yeah, that's and the accessibility of the sports. It's something. You can compare it when you compare hockey to, for example, the biggest sport in the world, football, or soccer from the USA. But football, I mean, if you put down, you take 4 jumpers, you can make 2 goals. You can play on the grass, and you can have a match. It's very simple. The rules are simple. Hockey is a lot more technical. I would like to see it becoming a lot more accessible. But I think that's happening in steps. Education-wise, as I said, on the rules and on products, I think we as a hockey community can do a lot more to make the sport more accessible. I see actions happening here in Central Europe at clubs where clubs are trying to encourage new members, but they're always, when you're encouraging new members, there's always the same roadblocks, and that's a lot of people don't know the rules of the sport and exactly how the sport works. So I would like to see more and more the hockey community bringing that out to the mass market. I think that the European, especially with the introduction of the EHL, a couple of years, I don't know when that was, back in 2010, I think, or 2011. With the introduction, that was really, for me, a real game-changing point for hockey. But you have to continue, and you have to continue to move that forward. And I think that's where we fell short a bit. The EHL have lost, in my opinion, has lost a bit of momentum. And we're now partnering with EuroHockey. And one of our things is we want to try and bring more momentum back into that.
So with that, obviously we touched on earlier that I think Osaka is the leader in marketing within hockey. What would you like to see from this partnership with the EHL to try and
with EuroHockey?
With EuroHockey to try and get the ball rolling again and get that momentum back?
Yeah, I don't think you need to go too far in it, but it's just simply to portray the game as the sport that we know it, and the sport that we love. If you see, I mean, hockey is, for me, the best sport in the world. It has everything. It has skill, it has speed, you need strength. It's exciting, there's lots of goals. The rules have adapted to make the game more exciting. So I think we just need to tell that story, and we need to do it in a simple way. And we need to make the sport more accessible to more players. There is a big movement in the USA for LA28 to get more people and the sport more accessible to all communities. I'd like to see that happening as well in Europe, where we break down the game. I'm not sure that Hockey Fives, in my opinion, is the answer, but I would like to see hockey coming more and more onto the streets, and a bit more of a fun version of the game. I think that would be pretty exciting for the growth of the game. So we're going to help. We're looking to help to see how we can support. But I think what we'll try and do is, first of all, from a marketing point of view, tell the sport, or tell the people, and give portray the sport as it is.
Interesting. So with that, and I'm trying to be very selective in my wording, is there anything you think is missing from hockey to allow it to get out to the mass market?
Yeah, it's not, I don't think it's the game itself. I think it's the marketing and the way that you need, in order for a game to grow, you need media attention. Without media attention, you can't grow the sport. The Olympics is the pinnacle of hockey, which I think is fantastic because the Olympic has a lot of heritage, but it's not part of our hockey. If you like, the FIH don't own the Olympics. The Olympics, our destiny, if you like, for the sport lies with the Olympics. I would like to see, if you take soccer as an example, the World Cup is the pinnacle of and it's controlled by FIFA. And I think, and I know that with the FIH Pro League, but I think there's too many games, there's too much hockey for me at the moment, and I'd like to see that the World Cup, or I know it's been spoken about in the past, but for me, one of the best tournaments was the Champions Trophy. The Champions Trophy was fantastic hockey in a short period. I think there's an element for that to come back in and to really get behind that with media.
So with that, what media would you like to see hockey put some money into creating?
Yeah, I think obviously everybody wants the TV coverage, but I think digital media is the way to go. If you see what's happening with all other sports, the focus is on digital media.
Interesting. So something that you said there that I think is really interesting is that you think there's too much hockey with the Pro League. So as someone who has tried to do coverage around some of these major tournaments, I personally think that the FIH condenses it too much and there's too much hockey on all at once. So it doesn't allow for those stories to be told. So I think that the Olympic qualifiers, for example, on one of the days there was 12 games, and I think 6 of those were played almost at the same time.
Yeah, it is difficult to follow, but I mean, look, hockey, one of the big advantages, hockey is a global sport, so we have a lot of teams involved, and I praise. I think the Pro League is a fantastic idea. I praise exactly what the idea is. I just personally find it difficult to follow because indeed you have so many games in a period of time, and I just can't follow it myself. And I'm a huge hockey fan, so but I don't know. I don't think there's one right solution to it. I just know that from my experience and from remembering back, I really liked the Champions Trophy. I thought it was really, really exciting. You're the best teams in the world all competing. I think there was a tournament in Utrecht in Holland, and it's one of the best tournaments I've been to. Also the World Cup in Den Haag in 2014, fantastic tournament. 14,000 people, stadium full, great hockey, really good coverage. Yeah, that's the way that I would like to see hockey going back towards.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I have really enjoyed it when I've gone to these major tournaments where there is, 10 teams playing. It's always a great atmosphere, especially when you get the big crowds and you get the supporter area outside where you get brands setting up booths and you have lots of fun activities. I think it just creates a great community atmosphere.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest, I lean more towards that kind of tournament format as well. I just think that the planning around it needs to be a little bit better, especially like the Olympic qualifiers where it was 4 tournaments across 3 venues. I don't see why they had to be played over the same small window rather than spread out, so you could create that media attention and build the stories.
Yeah, but I'm a hockey nerd. I can talk for hours about hockey, but I have to say I love the sport. I love what it stands for. My kids both play hockey. I'm the coach of their team. I'm going to carry that legacy, and I'm gonna be that father. So yeah, for me, there's nothing broken. I'm only looking from a sport to improve. I owe everything to hockey. It's given me it's brought me in contact, of course, with my brand, but I've had fantastic experiences traveling the world as well. So for me, hockey is not broken. Absolutely not. It's a fantastic sport. I just think you're always looking, like we are with Osaka, we're always looking to improve. What's next? What can we do better? And I just think for hockey that they need to take that approach, that we just keep pushing the sport forward gradually, bit by bit. That's kind of where I see it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So a couple of final questions.
Yeah.
Firstly, is there anything that you think Osaka does that doesn't get the attention that you think it deserves?
No, well, I mean, I don't know if people understand the amount of I don't know if people understand the amount of work and thought process that we put into our product. And I think we need to tell that story more. Always the idea from the beginning of the brand was we have the best players in the world using our product, but at the beginning we actually never used our players in marketing campaigns. We always used models, or we always took a different approach. The players were there to enforce that we had the best brand, but we wanted to market the brand in more of a lifestyle way. Now we're merging closer together because we think that we can merge the two of these marketing stories together. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot more goes into making a product, and we also have a lot of products that don't come to market. And I think that's always a shame. But when we're creating a collection, we create a collection, and there's a whole part of it that gets cancelled out for various reasons. We've explored all different types of stick shapes, bows, carbon content, shoes, all different types of products to be able to get to the collection where we are. So, but I think I think it's our job as a brand to tell that story more and to show how far we go into detail on a product collection.
Okay. And I always like to ask this as a final question. If you were given a golden check to sign any player to Osaka, who would you want to bring in?
Hockey player or any sport?
We'll do hockey player first and then any sport.
Who do I think? Yeah, to be honest, to be honest, I think we have the player that we if a player comes to mind, for me it's Arthur. That is a fantastic athlete. His style of play as a hockey fan, I'm not talking about as a part of Osaka, but as a hockey fan, I think any young player, if they want to see how to learn how to play hockey, they need to watch Arthur. He is for me far ahead in his thought process and how he manages the game. And you see now that players are learning from him and they're catching up. There's a lot of players. Arthur de Slover is a very similar player. And you see more players taking that, but he's just so far ahead on his thought process in the game. He's thinking steps ahead. He prioritizes basic skills. There's not many players as well, especially in the youth now, that prioritize basic skills. For me, the kingpin is Arthur. I can't go any further than that.
And if we open it out and say anyone from any sport, who would you like to bring in?
Yeah, and that's something as a brand we look at. We would like to connect hockey to other sports, and I think it would be really nice for hockey if we could connect a top sporting athlete to our brand. On Running did it, for example, with Roger Federer, and you see the success that has brought. And now I see there's a lot of movement in professional athletes or ex-professional athletes, and I'm talking the very highest level, connecting with brands that they feel an affiliation to. And I think for hockey, it would be really good if we can get that connection. Who the athlete is, I have no idea, but I think for hockey in general, that could be a really nice step. And also, as we spoke about before, to really put the sport more on the map.
Awesome. I think that would be really interesting if hockey could make that connection, especially as you're talking about the USA being a growing market.
Yeah.
Like you say, I don't quite know who would be a good sort of to bring in.
I think I saw on your social channel that you had the wife of the of one of the biggest stars in the US on your channel there recently, Kels from the wife of the famous NFL. I think one of the most portrayed guys on social media in the last couple of months, because of the Super Bowl and because of his brother with Travis Kelce with Taylor Swift. So that was pretty exciting. That was pretty exciting to see somebody of so important social media wise in Osaka clothing. And connected to our sport. Super cool. So yeah, let's see where this goes.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I can't wait to see the full Paris collection come out.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for your time, and it's always good to talk about hockey.